It is time now for Kane County Speaks here at WRMN, AM 1410, and WRMN Radio on YouTube. It's a bi-weekly show, kind of skipped a week, so we're going to have 3 shows in the next 4 weeks in the month of August. Should be meeting and hearing from a lot of our great candidates this month, and our leader for the show is Brian Anderson. And Brian, welcome back. I know on this show we do invite phone calls, but we kind of set the stage for things first. We talk about what happens at the Kane County Board meeting for a little bit. We introduce our guest, and then maybe in the second half of the show, if anybody wants to call in, they're welcome to at that point, right? Welcome back.
Great to see you.
Good to see you.
You know, last time I was here, it was a beautiful day, a little overcast today, but I'm glad to be here in Elgin, and more importantly, glad to be here and get to know Gretchen Butler in a few minutes, who's running for the Kane County Auditor position.
Yeah.
As you stated, I can't believe it. It's been July 11th was the last time that we were on. Gretchen was supposed to do an interview on the 25th, but she was on vacation, and she was so delighted that, and she was going to do it over the phone. And she goes, you know, I'd really like to be live. So she looks great in green. Brightens up this room for sure. So I'm actually glad we waited and she's here live. To your point and to your listeners, I just wanted to share what's been going on at the Kane County board meetings. And one of the things, and I know that I'm on air, but I know that some of your listeners are watching live. If they go down to the government building, they can go in and pick up this wonderful booklet. It's the Kane County 2023-2024 Government Guide, and it is a great guide. It lists all the 24 board members and what districts that they work for you and I, we the people. And on the 11th, I had David Tease, and so when it comes to voting on the election day, November 5th, if you live in District 22, you will go in and hopefully cast your vote for David Tease, who's running against Vern Tepe. Gretchen Butler is what's considered a county-wide candidate. So whether you live in Sugar Grove, where I live, or where you live in Elgin, or Sleepy Hollow, or Dundee, she is considered a county-wide candidate. And so we've had Lance Bell on the show, and I just want to remind your listeners, Lance Bell running for the county chair position, and we've got Gretchen Butler running for the Kane County Auditor. We've got Rob Russell, who is running for the Kane County Coroner. We've got Andrew Sosnowski, who is running for the Kane County State's Attorney, and we've got Anthony Costella, who's running for the Kane County Circuit Clerk. So those are your county-wide candidates. And I just want to remind your listeners that wherever you live in Kane County, the people I just mentioned, we need to go out, support, and vote for. Now, back to the board meeting. Fascinating. On July 30th, there was a Kane County special financial meeting. And it's about an hour and 54 minutes long. I would encourage your listeners to go to YouTube, go to the link and key in Kane County Government, and they will see it pretty much in chronological order. They'll be able to pull up the July 30th meeting and listen with their own ears and see with their own eyes the video. It's a little bit of a catastrophe. You know, one of the most important duties of these board members is the annual budget. That's what they're talking about. And in classic fashion, the vice chair, Vern Tepe, out of District 22, who David Tease is running against, he, at the 20-minute mark, goes, I think we've got a financial catastrophe going on here. Much of this is due to inflation. So I have to pause for a minute because I'm one of the citizens, along with many others. We've been going to the board meetings 16 months, and we've been challenging all along fiscal responsibility, reducing here, cutting there, making sure they're being responsible for you and I, we the people. And he has the audacity to go, I think we're in an inflationary period. We've been talking to them about it every month for the last 16 months. And so now they're scrambling on what to do, and there's going to be a lot of what I would call circus and drama. But at the end of the day, there is money in the bank. We have interest earned income, and it's like 16 to 18 million. So there is money. The budget will get taken care of, but it's just another example, Mark and Gretchen, of the incompetence going on, because just 60 days ago, it was Vern Tepe, along with some other board members, that let's give these people big fat raises. Now he's going, we may need to do some budget cuts. So it's worthy of bringing it up today, because I really want your listeners to either go to board meetings when they can, or certainly go on the YouTube, pull up Kane County government, and listen to this special finance committee meeting that was on July 30th. Now, with that said, I'm delighted. Gretchen Butler running for Kane County Auditor. So nice to see you this morning. Give me a handshake here. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Let me just start out with that typical question I ask all the candidates for the listeners. Tell us about Gretchen. You single, you married, you have kids, where do you live? How long have you lived in Kane?
All the details. Yes, so my husband and I have been married 25 years. Met in college, and we have 3 kids. I say kids, they're young adult kids. So a 22-year-old son, an 18-year-old daughter, and a 16-year-old daughter. So my son works at one of the local grocery stores, and so he's definitely in the service industry. I say all of us are in the service industry. My daughter is about to go off to Illinois State for her first year in college, and then I have a 16-year-old that's in the local school system, and she is a lifeguard, and my other daughter works at a restaurant. So all service-oriented kids serving the community out there, trying to make a living, and also, serve the people of the community. So live in St. Charles. We've lived here about 3 years. With my husband's job, we've kind of moved all over. If anybody recognizes my accent,
Yep.
which I'm sure they do,
Yep.
I forget. Grew up in Kentucky, went to school in Alabama. We lived in Texas for a while. Now we're here in Illinois, close to family. So still have family in Kentucky. But what's interesting is living here the past 3 years, and like I said, we've lived kind of all over the country. This feels like home, which people go, what? Why do you want to live here? And it really kind of makes me sad when I hear that, because I'm thinking there's great people here. There's great people here. There's great schools. The community is wonderful. There's a lot of people that want change and want things better. We all want things better, and better way of life and living. And so I really do. We've come to love this place. And as I mentioned, I have kids and my husband also has a business in the area. We're here, so we're not going anywhere. So yeah, that's a little bit about
25 years of marriage, outstanding,
Yes,
and
yes.
three blessed with 3
Yes.
wonderful children.
Absolutely.
That's amazing. And I've always been a big believer that start them out as early as possible, working, getting the experience, understanding accountability, responsibility, and even know, you talk to a 15 or even sometimes a 30-year-old about fiscal responsibility. It's good. It's a good training ground, right?
Absolutely.
It's a great training ground. So here's the big question. You've got a lot going on. You've been here 3 years. You got these kids getting ready, one for college. What made you decide, I'm going to throw my hat in this political arena and go for this Kane County auditor position? Tell us about that.
Yes. So I grew up with 2 educators in the home. My dad was a history teacher. So politics, we weren't necessarily involved. We were very aware of what was going on. My dad raised me. 16, you get your license. 18, you vote. That is what you do.
Okay.
18th birthday, you go sign up and register to vote. So that has been from day one ingrained in me. So always been involved voting wise. Of course, as you've mentioned, I've heard you mention other times before, the average citizen, especially if you're in your 20s, 30s, and I'm 40s now, you get caught up in family life. It's hard to work a full-time job or work from home, raise children, raise a family, do all the activities and that sort of thing, and community service, that it's hard to stay tapped into what's going on in the local politics. I would say I was aware of what was going on. And then I think, like most people, we saw the country take a turn and politics became backbiting and stabbing and, questioning people's characters and motives. And I was one of those that went, I don't want to listen to any of that. I'm done with it. So I reluctantly turned my head and just thought, that's somebody else's job. Of course, realized over the past 3 years, that's not working. When you turn your head and you look the other way and you just act like somebody else is going to take care of it, that doesn't usually work. So for me, I started waking up to, wow, what is going on? Like, this is unfair. And some of the things you mentioned, property taxes and things going on in the schools. And so it really piqued my interest. So I got more engaged in listening. And then I had somebody say to me, have you ever thought about politics? And of course, I mean, people that do know me know I'm very transparent and authentic. And sometimes I speak candidly. And I said, why would I want to do that? And she kind of chuckled and she said, well, because you are gifted with some of these things financially, and financially in the sense of having experience with finances and in my business experience, and then the experience itself, and you love people and you care about people and you care about the community. And of course that kind of went, well, she's kind of right, all that. And so I said, well, reluctantly, I will check into this. So looked more into the auditor position and talked to several people that are well-versed in the position and what it takes. And, just honestly laid everything out, my experience and what I've done, which we can talk about in a minute. And they said, you really need to consider this. And so again, reluctantly, I thought, I'm one of those people that when something is presented, I look at it, weigh all the options, pray about it, and continue to walk. And if the door's open, I'm going to keep walking. And if the door closes, maybe I'll look for a window, but I'm going to look and go, what am I supposed to do? Mm-hmm. So every door opened from a couple of weeks before having to have the petitions signed. We were shooting for 450, 500 signatures. We ended up, the goal was, I had to have 450 or 500. The goal was 750 because, of course, you want to get more signatures in case they're contested. We ended up with over 1,400 signatures.
That's amazing.
Wow.
In 2 weeks.
Really? That is amazing.
And so for me, I went, I think I'm supposed to do this. I think there's a need here. And so, again, just kept walking and just every step of the way, everybody's support has been amazing. And just asking those hard questions, keeping my eyes open, my ears open, and just it feels right. So I'm a proponent of if the momentum is there, you go for it.
Yeah, and thanks for sharing that. And just so many things popped into my head listening to you. One is, and again, I don't want to put a blanket label because it's not always the case, but you're not a politician. You haven't run before.
Correct.
This isn't like, well, I was actually on the county board when I lived in wherever you lived in Texas, and I've done that before. You're a citizen that's come here, moved here, planted here, roots here, kids involved here. You're seeing what's going on around Kane County, and instead of, like so many of us, myself included, put our head in the sand and go, that's somebody else's problem. And someone with leadership skills goes, you know what? I'm going to take a step and I'm going to see what I can do. And I love that.
Absolutely.
And I love the fact that you have a spirit of community because at the end of the day, and I've said this ever since I've been on this radio program, there's not a lot we, the people, can control what happens out of Washington, D.C.
Right.
And down in Springfield, there's not a lot we, the people, can control, basically because Illinois is a super majority. That means that it is Democrat-run at all levels. all the way up to the Supreme Court, and it's very challenging for those men and women that do represent we the people in Springfield that are Republicans. It's a challenge.
Right.
Here in Kane County, locally, that's where I think that we can make a big difference. And so I love the fact that you took a look and said, I'm going to do this. And what I really like is, look, I've seen some of these signatures from other candidates. They've gone out and got the bare minimum. You went out and got 1,400. And so that says a lot about your work ethic and just this desire. The other thing that caught my attention early on, and I want to share this with the listeners, and I've said it before, we're in a climate right now, and that's a whole different conversation, running for president and all the way down. By the way, full disclosure, I am a huge President Trump fan, so I make no bones about it. I'm very interested that people that live in Kane County, if you haven't voted in the last couple of cycles because of you've been disgusted or discouraged, I understand. Get out and vote this time. Absolutely. Because at the local level, if we really want to quote what Gretchen said, a better quality of life here in Kane County,
it starts here.
It starts here, going out and voting for the local board members, for the auditor, for the circuit clerk,
Absolutely.
for the Kane County board chair, Lance Bell, or a David Tees in District 22, or an Eric Stair, the other candidates that I'll talk about. Now, let me pause for a second. Take a deep breath.
Wait, who needs to take a deep breath? Both of us?
Tell us and the audience about your work experience, right? This auditor job, it's a big job.
Sure.
Kane County, I don't know if you probably know this, Mark. It's the 5th largest county in the state of Illinois.
Yeah.
It's a big job. So
Absolutely.
Share with the audience, your professional background, what's kind of put you in a position to go, my background has positioned me to even do this position.
Sure. So the past 25 plus years, I've been in some sort of financial sector, whether it's been credit unions, banks. Also, there was a season I was at home raising children. So working from home, doing books for different organizations and businesses. So at some point, in different positions, had some sort of connection with financial statements, with budgets, expenses, payroll, that kind of thing. That plays a part in it. Also, for a time, about 5 years, my husband and I owned a hardware store, small town hardware store in Kentucky, and where, the budget of a small town hardware store compared to Kane County, there's a big difference. However, I helped with the day-to-day operations with that, managing the AP and AR, and so had my hands in that daily, as well as managing employees and that sort of thing. So, we went from $1.8 million in revenue to $2.8 million. So managing that, $1.5 million in inventory, implementing, different POS systems and things like that to really manage it effectively. So, and then now the role that I'm in is it's an account manager role, but I work with businesses with their print and mail projects. So in that sense, I'm working with groups of people, developers. They have a different way of doing things. Their minds are wired a certain way. We have clients with what they things that they want and expectations. And so managing all of that and working with them as a team towards a common goal. And so listening and understanding what each group is saying they need or want and communicating that. So that leadership of managing and bringing things together when, then, they're in any kind of business, there's always people that come up against each other and there's friction. And so being able to navigate that and bring us all together and back to the common goal. So I feel like those things really have positioned me to be able to be successful in this role.
No, that's outstanding, and thanks for sharing a little bit about that. And, listen, running a business, I know people that we took it from 1.8, and unfortunately it declined. But you grew the business and maintained the business. You also talked about managing a team, and I believe the Kane County auditor position that person, that male, female, who's ever the Kane County auditor, I think they have a staff.
They do.
So how many team members have you managed and led and coached over the years, just as an example of
Sure.
doing that?
So with our hardware business, we had an average of 20 employees.
Okay.
And that ranged from your 16-year-old,
Right.
who's their very first job, to we had people in their 60s that they had retired from their first career, and this was their second career. This was something to keep them busy. As my older gentleman would say, my wife wants me out of the home, so wants me out of her way. So the age range of that. Also, while I was in Kentucky, I was president of the Women's Club. And we averaged about 120 members. Again, women ranging from, in their 20s, new, right out of college, to women. This is what they did after retirement. And so I had a woman that was in her 80s. So managing all of those personalities and age groups can be a challenge, but that's, I think, a strength that I have. When there's difficulty or when there's, hard personalities, I feel like I can stay level-headed, I can stay calm, and when people are upset, kind of help diffuse the situation, bring it back together. So I think that's real important when you're talking about whether it's the treasurer's office working with the auditor's office working with different county departments. There needs to be that leadership of bringing people together, and we're all working towards a common goal.
No, I couldn't agree with you more, and I think before our commercial break, we probably got about a minute and a half, and we'll pick it up at the other end. But I love what you said about managing the different ages, and what picked up to me, strength. And it can be hard, staying level-headed and calm. And those are all great character traits of leaders. And I've, like you, have been in many different work settings where the leader, they crack under pressure, they come in and the weekly meetings are chaotic, or they yell and scream. And I'm like, wait a second, what's going on here?
Right.
And so many times it's because they've never experienced that before, right?
Exactly.
This is their first job leading people. This is not your first time doing that. And
Correct.
so that is also really, really good. We'll pick that up on the other end of the break.
Yeah, that's right. And if you want to be part of the show, give us a call, 847-931-1410. We have one caller on the line that we'll take when we come back from the break, 847-931-1410. We're on YouTube at WRMN Radio on YouTube. And we have the information line, Image 360 information line at 505-926-1410. Challenges, compliments, criticism, comments, all welcome here on Kane County Speaks. Brian Anderson and Gretchen Butler back with more in just a moment on WRMN. Stay tuned.
Cool. Do you have Mike?
Welcome back to Kane County Speaks, second part of the show. Here on WRMN, AM 1410, WRMN Radio on YouTube. And we have Brian Anderson, Gretchen Butler with us today. She's running for Kane County Auditor and manage the finances at True Value Hardware, which was my first job.
Was it?
Yeah, I didn't mention that during the break.
Nice.
Here in Elgin, Illinois, as a matter of fact, True Value Hardware. I didn't like it.
No?
No, I wasn't a guy that knows how to fix anything, and they put me in the plumbing department.
Oh.
So we have people that know what they're doing coming in asking for pipes and things, and I have no idea. I'm just 16 years old at the time.
That was
Always had to
my-
call the manager.
That was my husband's favorite department, getting caught in the plumbing.
Well, welcome back. Shall we go to the phones? 847-931-1410 and take a couple of phone calls and start with this caller. Good morning. Welcome to Kane County Speaks.
Good morning, Mark.
Hey, George.
I have a question for Gretchen Butler. Gretchen, I certainly admire and appreciate your community commitment. Running for elected office is certainly not for the faint of heart, as I'm sure you're learning and have learned.
Yes, thank you.
And I've looked at when Mark announced that you would be on Brian's show, I looked at your website, I looked at your resume, both very impressive. And one of the things you mentioned, Gretchen, which sort of caught my attention was residents linking arms and people working together. And, it's no secret that there's so much divisiveness in our county and our country, but nonetheless, you talked about people working together. So I'm wondering, and if I'm getting ahead of you here, I apologize, but do you have a plan for getting people involved in the auditor's office or people working together in the auditor's office?
I think, first of all, leading by example, I think is huge. I've been on both sides. I've been the leader, and I've also been the participant receiving the leadership. And there's definitely more room and ability to grow things and to expand and to make things better when the leader is exemplifying positive togetherness, community. And I think it's important on a personal level. I mean, work is work. I'm not saying blur the lines, but caring about the people on the team is first and foremost. That is number one for me in my workplace. As I said, I do have boundaries on, how close to get, but I think involving the team itself and having mutual respect for each other. And then as far as, what does that look like out to the community? And are we going out into the community and, talking about some of these things? And are we talking at a level that people can understand? And we're not talking at them, but allowing them a comfortable space to ask questions if they don't understand. Not everybody is an accountant or has a business degree or understands financials. And so, giving them a safe space to ask questions, to be involved. And, for me, I'm just starting with my circle of influence. That was kind of the sad part is my circle of influence. My friends were similar to me, raising families and not really paying attention. And so trying to get the word out to different people in casual conversations. It's not, it doesn't take much to start a conversation with, how do you think things are going? What are you seeing? So I apologize if I didn't answer your question. If I need to clarify some more, I'll be more than happy to. Did I answer?
I think you did answer the question.
Okay, good.
And I wish you good luck in this upcoming election.
Thank you, George.
Gretchen, what are your immediate priorities if elected? Like your top three priorities, if I might ask.
Yeah, my top ones. Performing the audits internally and all the audits internally. Those need to be done internally. And then bringing people together. I think it's important that regardless of party affiliation, this job is for the people, and it's all county departments, it's all board members. So bringing that unity of, I'm not going to treat you differently because you're a Democrat or you're an independent. We're all in this together. It affects all of us, regardless of whether we're political or not. So that's a main thing. And then lastly, as I mentioned, educating and communicating what's going on with the budget and the finances. And of course, Brian does a great job of that, but getting into more the nitty gritty if the people are interested. So providing opportunities to speak and demonstrate what's going on in the county.
Hey, George, this is Brian Anderson. Hey, thank you so much for the question. And yes, kiddingly, you did go ahead of yourself. I was going to be asking her about that, so you did a fine job volleying up a little bit about collaboration and communication. One of the things that caught my attention as she was sharing with you is talking at people. And there's so many people, leaders out there, they talk at their team members instead of engage. And I'm a big fan that if you have developed the communication skill of engaging people in two-way free exchange communication, as Gretchen was sharing, what do you think, right? I'm new. You've been doing this job for a couple of years.
Absolutely.
And then go, you know what? That's a great idea. Let me put that down. I'm a big believer when you feel valued and valuable by the person you report to, you're going to become a raving fan and work hard for them. On the flip side, when I'm a tell you what to do person and you need to do it regardless, then you're not going to stick around. And that's why we see people in the job market. I ask people all the time, I go, well, how long you been at your current job? 6 months, a year. How come? The boss, right? It's rarely about the money. It's usually, I didn't like the culture, and most importantly, the person that I worked with and reported to, I didn't like him.
You know, it's interesting you bring that up. When we ran the hardware store, I cannot tell you how many times that, somebody wouldn't show up for work. Well, immediately we're concerned, because we raise our kids and we have the work ethic that we're going to show up. And if we aren't showing up, we're going to let somebody know. And they wouldn't let us know. Of course, we're nervous. Because immediately you go, are they in a car wreck? Are they, And, we would obviously try to reach out to them. And I'll never forget, somebody had an issue with their kid or something. And they came running in later in the day, just in tears. And of course, I was like, what is wrong? And they were like, do I still have a job? And I said, well, yes. We have a policy, so many no-shows. But of course you still have a job, and just sobbing. And I'm going, well, I don't understand. Why are you so upset? And they were like, every job I've ever had, I've gotten screamed at. I've been yelled at. I've been chastised. And I just was sitting there going, what? Why? Who? Why do people? Right. I don't understand how people act that way. So that is not definitely not my MO. And I think I've been enough on the side of receiving leadership, that you're right. It doesn't feel good, and you don't feel appreciated.
Hey, George, thanks for calling. I know we've got another caller, but before we end, I just want to thank you again for calling. And go on Gretchen's website, reach out to her, because wherever you live in Kane County, if you like what you hear, she could use your help.
Absolutely.
Knocking on doors,
George.
Walking around. But if you want to be on Gretchen's team, I know she'd love a new team member.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you very much for taking my call.
Thank you, George. Take care.
Bye-bye.
All right, George calling in. It's Kane County Speaks here at WRMN. We got one more caller at 847-931-1410. And good morning. Welcome to the show.
Hi. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
I'm driving in a car. Hey, Gretchen and Brian, this is Jim Whittington from St. Charles, one of your supporters.
Hi, Jim.
I just want to commend you, Gretchen, for your willingness to disrupt your own personal family life and everything else you have going on to become a public servant.
Well, thank you.
And it's great, being an outsider coming in, it's a great different kind of perspective to have. Now, my understanding is that your opponent may have been in that job for a while. I don't know, but I don't know. I think she's got a family relationship with another major office holder in the county. Aren't they mother and daughter? Can you tell me a little bit more about your opponent?
Sure. Yeah, so she's finishing her first term as auditor, and she is the daughter of Sandy Wegman. It's Penny Wegman is who I'm running against. Sandy Wegman is the recorder. So, yes, that's her mother.
Yeah, I just kind of wonder whether there's any ethical issues involved with the mother and daughter kind of working side by side, on government stuff. Anyway, so that's that I wanted to ask. And this other one is, I don't know if it's a suggestion or it's a question.
Sure.
My understanding is, government accounting is completely different than regular bookkeeping. I believe it's fund accounting. And so there's a lot of different kinds of rules and regulations about your ability to be able to move money from one fund to another to cover shortfalls. I know they've been doing a lot of that, especially since the pandemic. So my question to you is, what are you doing in preparation for what I believe will be a successful, election of you to take that position next year?
Sure. So definitely studying that position and what it takes. It was kind of funny. Brian came in this morning and he said, have you seen this yet? I said, actually, I have it in front of me. And yes, I've been studying it, the different aspects of the job. So studying what is entailed. Also, I've been in conversations with board members, also out in the community, talking to the different townships and, listening to them and hearing them. Of course, if you know about the auditor position, I don't really have a platform. I don't really have any say in how things are spent or policies per se. But still, it's important to listen and to then communicate that to the different board members, and just listening to the people and what are some of the struggles that they have and frustrations maybe with the county. And so I think that's an important part of it.
Okay. Well, thanks for your willingness. I'm certainly here to support you, and wish you good luck in the next few months. Okay.
Thank you, Jim. Yes, well, Jim, 93 days.
Jim, thank you for calling in. And if you like what you hear with Gretchen Butler, the best compliment you can pay her is everyone you know everywhere in Kane County. Have them rally around her, listen to the recorded interview, and reach out to Gretchen. How can I help? If it's door knocking for a day or hosting a fundraiser would be outstanding. But that's the best compliment we can pay these candidates, is give them some help.
Absolutely. And my website is butlerforkane.com. Thank you so much, Jim. Appreciate your support.
Will do. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Take care. All right, thanks, Jim. 946 here at WRMN. In the chat room on YouTube, Karen Wineland says, hi, Gretchen, Brian, and Marky B. Great show. Gretchen, I can't wait to vote for you, a candidate for We the People. Thank you for being a voice for We the People, from Karen Wineland this morning.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
So, I was delighted that George called in and talked a little bit about, your communication and, objectives, if you will. I want to take the listeners back because I don't want anybody to lose sight. It can be marginalized sometimes. You said, hey, I ran a business and I was a working professional, but then I took a pause and was a mom. That's a big job, right? And I think men, we tend to forget that being the CFO, and when you've got 2-3 kids and you're running and managing a budget and everything is friction-free, that's a big job. And that's the same thing you actually want in the workforce, right? Someone that can come in, get down to the attention to details, friction-free. Are the auditing reports on time every time? And so I think whether you've had a professional career or then took the pause, that's a big job. And I just wanted your listeners to pick up on that's always a good thing.
Thank you. Yes.
So one of the things, I know we've got time constraints. It's an interesting job, right? It's working for the people. It's not Democrat, Republican. So as we're just kind of kicking it around, there's so many, 46% is what the data says, that here in Kane County, 46% of voters are independent. And so what's your thoughts or your message as we're on the air today, as you're going out, for them to vote for Gretchen when they go into the poll? They're independent, or they're what I would call maybe a moderate Democrat, and they're like, I don't like how things have been going. Why would they want to open up the hood, give you that look and go, you know what, she's exactly what we need for Kane County?
Sure, absolutely. So I think my message is, I'm for you. I'm for the people, and regardless of whether you like or you don't like, Democrats, Republicans, whatever, if you identify as an independent, I think you can look at my history and look at what I think is important and what I value and what I want for the community. And I think it's what they want. And so just knowing that I'm going to be fair and just, and I'm there to do a job. It's not a political position. It's not a place to, get the upper hand or try to, manipulate anything. It's there to do a job. And I think, that's probably the most challenging part of running, is the reason it's a political position is because the state says any county over 75,000 people must have an elected auditor, which makes sense. I mean, you don't want just anybody, right, in this position. So it makes sense, but it is challenging because, of course, you have to pick a position and stand on that. So at the end of the day, I feel like I represent the community whether it's, the hard worker that's, working at Jewel Osco, like my son, to, somebody in the service industry or manufacturing or, an executive. I think I represent all of that and want what's best for the community.
No, and I agree. And, every one of these positions is a little bit different, but it seems to me that this auditing role, it's how can I create this environment of teamwork that makes the dream work, right?
Absolutely.
We're here. I think there's people that probably have the financial background that could maybe do the job,
Sure.
but then maybe they lack the team building and leadership and effective communication to where they can actually tell their friends and family, like, I love going to work,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
And not everybody can say that. And I think that there's opportunity in that position to have that kind of an atmosphere, if you will.
Absolutely.
So as we're, wrapping up our time, just kind of want to speed through, some of what I call the components of that job. In your role, what you do now, what you did when you had your own business, give the audience just some examples of you having to review expenditures and get those done. How do you manage and balance the work that needs to be done and the expectations of getting it done?
Sure. So I think first and foremost, being organized, making sure that you're organized, you have deadlines, that you're meeting those deadlines. The job I'm in now, there's, if there's a project, the client says, I need this project done. I go back to developers and things and get quotes from them. And then I have to manage that. So I go back to the client and say, this is what it's going to cost you. And then, of course, if it takes longer or doesn't take as long, so managing, make sure we're staying within that budget and we're not going over, that the right time is spent where it's needed, to spend. I know even just with the Women's Club and different expenses and wanting to donate and give and then just normal expenses, really looking at each one of those things and evaluating, okay, as well as in our business, our hardware store, my husband was the one that wanted to kind of, spend money and, let's grow the business and where all that's great, you still have got to count everything and how it's going to affect you in the future. So really looking at things and especially expenditures. Is this really justified that the county is spending the money on this? If it's in the budget, okay, great, but is that the best use of the money? So really evaluating things and looking into the details of it all, I think is real important.
Very good. One of the things that you said earlier is being calm, and I can sense that in the auditor position and ebb and flow, and like right now, one of the big objectives is obviously the budget, and so they're getting, do we have all the expenditures, and here's where we're at. How do you work under pressure, and how have you learned to manage that?
Yes. So I would say early in my career, I was easily ruffled.
Okay.
Easily ruffled. Oh my goodness, kind of panicked, and then realized, okay, nothing is worth panicking over. And sometimes people cause you to panic that isn't necessary. So I think for me personally, if there is chaos, I have to kind of take a step back, take a breath, and go, okay, really, what's going on? Let's talk about real facts. What's real and what's truth, and then going into the situation, even if it's an escalated situation, going in calm and saying, okay, these are the facts. Let's come back to the facts. This is what we're dealing with, and trying to get that, from a level 10 down to a level 7, right. Trying to bring people down and, talking through the details in a calm manner. So
I think that I saw, and when I say recently, it's probably been 6 months, I use the online tool LinkedIn. I've been using LinkedIn since 2004. It's the largest business networking platform in the world. And many companies, many organizations, their recruiters, when they have a job requisition, they will go out and post on LinkedIn, and hopefully, one of the 400 million users will, see
Click
it,
on it.
or they'll respond. Anyway, I saw a posting that they were hiring for a staff position at the Kane County Auditor. So my question to you is, have you had to interview people in the past and interview and hire people in positions to where they're going to work with you or for you?
Absolutely. So earlier in my career, I was a trainer for a credit union. So I interviewed and hired tellers. So I had that aspect. Also, I was the one that did the interviewing for our hardware store. And of course, that's from cashier to a receiving person to a mechanic to even people that worked for me in the accounting department. So I do feel like I am a very good judge of character, and I'm very intuitive when I'm talking with people, and so I can kind of pick up on things, whether good or bad. And so definitely have experience with interviewing, and then of course from that point when as well as the hardware store, I used to train. I didn't train a mechanic, but I would train the cashiers,
right.
The accounting people kind of in our systems, as well as I was training tellers as well. So, that's important, I think, in the auditor role, is evaluating each of those positions, learning each of those positions to be able to step in when needed, but also in the opportunity of hiring people, for sure.
So I tell you, the time has flown. I could sit here and talk with you for another hour as we wrap. And I know you shared it with George, but just for the listeners, how can they get a hold of you if
Sure.
they want to learn more about you, your website, or even go, I like what I heard today. I want to work and walk and help Gretchen. What do we do?
Absolutely. So my website is butlerforkane.com. My email address is gretchen@butlerforkane.com. Also, my phone number, 630-492-0773. And all that information is on my website, butlerforkane.com. I have been so overwhelmed with the support and the gratitude. Just everybody that came on thanked me for running, and I never expected that.
Right.
I'm not doing it for that. I'm not doing it for accolades. I'm not looking. It's kind of funny talking with some of the other candidates. I love going to events with some of the others because they like to talk more than I do. Believe it or not, I know I've talked the whole time.
That's hard to believe.
I know it's hard to believe, but there are some that like to talk more than me, and so I like going with them because then I don't have to talk as much. But it's been fun. This has been a very fun, informative process, and getting out and getting to know the people of the community is huge. And so appreciate everybody's support, and definitely need more. We got to get the word out. 93 days till the election. 93.
Wow. It's coming.
It's going to be here before we know it. So thank you for your time.
Thanks so much, and I'm glad we waited so it could be live in the studio instead of over the phone. And Mark, great to see you again, and looking forward to the next 3 weeks.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Nice to meet you, Gretchen.
You as well.
All right, coming up next, it's going to be the Brian Kilmeade Show. Thanks for listening. Next week, we'll have Eric Stair on the show, running for Kane County Boards. Keep it right here on WRMN.